Penguin Random House Audio presents Read at the Bone by Jacqueline Woodson. Read for you by Quincy Tyler Bernstein, Peter Francis James, Shayna Small, Bonnie Turpin, and Jacqueline Woodson.
For the ancestors. A long, long line of you, bending and twisting, bending and twisting. Bro, how you doing? You holding on? Man, you know how it goes. One day chicken, next day bone. Two old men talking.
1. But that afternoon, there was an orchestra playing. Music filling the brownstone. Black fingers pulling violin bows and strumming cellos, dark lips around horns, a small brown girl with pale pink nails on flute. Malcolm's younger brother, his dark skin glistening, blowing somberly into a harmonica. A broad-shouldered woman on harp. From my place on the stairs, I could see through the windows curious white people stopping in front of the building to listen. And as I descended, the music grew softer, the lyrics inside my head becoming a whisper. I knew a girl named Nikki. I guess you could say she was a sex fiend. No vocalist. The little girl didn't know the words. The broad-shouldered woman, having once belted them out loud while showering, was now saved and refused to remember them. Iris wouldn't allow them to be sung, and Malcolm's brother's sweet 7-year-old mouth was full. Still, they moved through my head as though Prince himself were beside me. I met her in a hotel lobby, masturbating with a magazine. And in the room, there was the pink and the green of my grandmother's sorority, the black and gold of my grandfather's Alpha brothers, gray-haired and straight-backed, flashing gold-capped teeth and baritone, A-Fi-A, as I made my entrance. High-pitched calls of "Ski-wee" answering back to them. Another dream for me in their calling out to each other. "Of course you're gonna pledge one day," my grandmother said to me over and over again. When I was a child, she surprised me once with a gift-wrapped hoodie, pale pink with "My grandmother is an AKA" in bright green letters. "That's just legacy, Melody," she said. "I pledged, your grandfather pledged." Iris didn't. A pause. Then quietly, her lips at my ear. "That's because your mama isn't legacy." "This," I whispered back to her, quoting her sorority mantra, "is a serious matter." My grandmother laughed and laughed. Look back at me on the last day in May. Finally 16, and the moment like a hand holding me out to the world. Rain giving way to a spectacular sun, its rays speckling through the stained glass, dancing off the hardwood floors. The orchestra's music lifting through the open windows and out over the block as though it had always belonged to the Brooklyn air. Look at me, hair flat-ironed and curling over my shoulders, red lipstick, charcoaled eyes. The dress, Iris's dress, unworn in her closet until that moment. Already when it was time for her ceremony, I was on my way. Already, at nearly 16, her belly told a story a celebration never could. My grandfather's oversized dress shirts backdropping the baby fat still pouting her cheeks, the fine lanugo hair still clinging to the nape of her neck. Still, that afternoon, the years that separated us could have been 50. Iris standing at the bottom of the stairs watching me looking away from her. Where was I looking? At my father? My grandparents? At anything. At anyone. But her. Earlier that day, she came into my room as I pulled stockings over my thighs, attempted to clip them to an ivory-gartered corset. These too had once belonged to her, unworn, still boxed and wrapped with tissue paper. The fragile stocking struggling against being locked into the garter. This I had learned from my grandmother, and she from her mother, and on back. Mine the only ceremony skipping a generation of mothers, showing daughters. This, the corset wearing, the garters, the silk stockings, was as old as the house my father and I shared with my grandparents. This ritual of marking class and time and transition stumbled back into the days of cotillions, then morphed and morphed again until it was this: some forgotten ancestor's gartered corset and a pair of new silk stockings, delicate as dust. "I guess you win this round," she said. "Prince it is." I looked up at her. The evening before, she twisted her hair into tight pin curls, and standing before me, she began to pull them loose, her thick reddish hair springing into coils down over her ears. The baby fat long gone from her cheeks, replaced by high, stunning bones. I pressed my hand against my own face, felt the same structure beneath my skin. "I didn't know it was a competition, Iris." Once, a long time ago, she was Mommy, and I held her neck, her arms, her belly tight with dimpled baby hands. I remember that, how I reached and reached and reached for her. "Mommy, Mommy, Mommy." The dress, white and unworn, lay spread out on the bed beside me. Behind it, a framed poster of Rage Against the Machine's 1997 concert. My father and I went because Wu-Tang was opening. I was 12 then, and the two of us yelled and rapped and cheered so hard, we both stayed home the next day drinking lemon honey tea to nurse our sore throats. The poster was professionally framed, the red letters against a gray mat, the oversized black frame picking up the muted colors of the black and white photograph. Beside it, another poster. If someone said choose between your mom and dad, I wouldn't need to blink, wouldn't stutter. I'd run like a little kid and jump into my daddy's arms. Feels like it's always a competition these days. Somewhere along the way, I became your enemy. She pressed her hand to her throat and held it there, her fingers gently moving across her collarbone as though she were checking to see if it remained intact. A gold bracelet slid down away from her wrist, tiny diamonds catching the light. I swallowed, at once envying and adoring all the ways in which the word lovely could refer to my mother. So strange, still, how different we were. I had given up on trying to negotiate the stockings into the ridiculous garters, and was just sitting there, staring at her, elbows on my thighs, hands hanging down. "I don't get it. This is my ceremony, and you're trying to be stuck about the music. You blew yours, remember?" "No, the baby in my belly blew mine, remember?" "Don't even, Iris." Then for a moment, like so many times before this, I lost the words, watched them drop. No, dissipate. From the air between us. Dissipate. The word had shown up on my SAT prep tests again and again until it landed in this room with us, between my mother and me. Don't even. I didn't ask to be born. I didn't say, do what you and my dad were doing. You could have waited. Iris raised an eyebrow at me. I know you're not trying to have some kind of abstinence conversation with me. You could have. There wasn't some rush to do what you guys did. You mean have sex?